We want to make sure our clients have their wills and estates in place. We want to check to make sure that their beneficiaries on all their accounts are up to date and they have copies of them in writing. Should there be an emergency, you want to have all of that in place. Another category on the financial action checklist is often investment planning, and that could be any number of things relative to their investment portfolio. So after we rewrite the notes, we're going to begin to put together the financial action checklist, which is what we want to primarily review with the potential client in the second meeting. And sometimes there's more topics than others. Sometimes it's more income tax intensive. Sometimes it's more investment intensive. Other times more financial planning focused. That's okay, but we're going to put that together, and that's the first thing we really want to go through when the client comes in for the second meeting.
So it's more of an action checklist.
Yes.
Good.
Yeah, it's less just all recommendations, because a lot of the terminology in the financial action checklist will be like, we use the word consider, because we may not even know enough to make the recommendation. Like I mentioned before, we may have to check with the tax professional to make sure that we have all of our ducks in a row before making the recommendation. Sometimes we're waiting for documents from them, and depending on the documents we get from them, we'll determine what the ultimate recommendation is. So some of it's specific recommendations, and others it's things that we ought to work on in the early phase of the expected business relationship. And it provides a nice glimpse for the potential client to see that holistic approach you referenced earlier, Lindy, that we're not just trying to do investments, although we do that very well and bring a lot of competence to that area of financial planning, but we're going to look at lots of different areas to help the client across a wide spectrum in the financial planning process.
Good. So, I mean, it just seems like we're really looking out for the client, and I think we feel really good when we're presenting this checklist to clients or to potential clients. What is your experience with their normal reaction to that checklist?
It is unbelievably favorable. I did a meeting just a couple of days ago with our new client, and we've had a lot of success. We're recording this towards the end of 2019. We've had a lot of success this year attracting new clients from a variety of different sources. And the financial action checklist, I think, is one of the very best features of the relationship early going, because it gives both parties a roadmap as to what needs to get worked on. And by putting it in writing in that way and discussing all of these different categories and the items within each category up front, it really sets the stage for a productive business relationship, because when we do our first review with the client, we're going to pull out the financial action checklist and we're going to say, hey, we were able to do this, we were able to do that, we considered this but ruled it out, we thought about this but this year is not the right time to do it, that's for a year down the line. We'll go through that financial action checklist. So people really like it, and if they've had experience with other advisors, and many times they're coming to us looking for some type of an improvement, they really, really appreciate that. I mentioned this meeting a couple of days ago. That was exactly the case. They had an advisor, and as it turns out, a couple of years ago, they spoke with our client, Lindy, and our client gave our name to this person. And the person decided not to call us. They were going to go with someone else that was kind of already a family kind of thing or whatever. It was kind of the path of least resistance. But then a year or two later, they became very disappointed with the relationship. And then they went back to our client again, and they called us. And the relationship, they said that they were not being heard, that there was no proactive communication, and that it was mostly a one-way relationship. They weren't wronged per se, but they were looking for something more. And when we showed them the financial action checklist and presented the checklist, it became very clear to them that what they were looking for is what they were finding in the relationship they were about to start with us. And again, that's why they're our newest new client. And they know up front that when we do our next review with them, we're going to go through the financial action checklist, and we're going to need to work with them over these couple of months to attend to the financial action checklist so that they are as happy when we do the review as they are when they sign the paperwork to be our client.
Good. So you give them this financial action checklist, and really at that point, it's more like, here, this is yours, take it. This is how we think you should move forward. And they can choose to either work with us to accomplish that or take that and work on it themselves. What is the benefit of using us? I know this is a little salesy. I'm sorry, but what's the benefit of working with us to accomplish those goals?
I think it's exactly what we've talked about in this discussion, is that we want to help people. We have a lot of technical knowledge. We have a lot of credentials. We have a lot of years of experience. So those are some good starting points. Additionally, after 2 meetings now, we will have gotten to know the potential client. They will have gotten to know us, heard me answer questions, talk about financial topics, go through the different financial action checklists. They will have sized me up. They would have sized us up. And the advantage of going with us through this process, culminating in the financial action checklist and the rest of the proposal, is that if they feel comfortable moving forward, we have sown the seeds of a successful, long-term, fulfilling business relationship. It doesn't always work out that way, but the advantage is that we went through a really good process to begin the relationship, and that sets the stage for a good long-term business relationship, as I just said. And if the person is appreciative of working in partnership with someone across the financial planning spectrum, with insurance, estate planning, income tax planning, investment planning, if they're open to that, then we're probably going to be a good match for them. And at this point, after the 2 meetings, both parties should feel pretty good about it going into it. And if we do that, and we do that well, there's a good chance everybody gets what they want out of the deal.
Well, I think that's good. I mean, do you have any other comments or anything that you'd like to say about, the interview process, or things that you think people should know about us?
That's an interesting question. I think they should know that we try really hard. When you're dealing with investments and these different planning topics, much of it is out of our control. When you're talking about insurances, of course you want to get as much insurance as you can, but there are budgetary constraints. But if we knew when somebody was going to pass away or become disabled or need long-term care, the planning would be much easier. But there's so many unknowns and so many things that are outside of our control. We are sometimes judged harshly. It's the nature of the business. But what I would want people to know, if you're listening, is that we care a lot, and we try really hard to use our integrity and technical skills and our system of regular communication with clients to, as much as possible, increase the chances of successful outcomes and decrease the chances that mistakes are made. So I think I'd probably leave it there.
Okay.
So I think this was great, Lindy. You did a great job.
Thank you.
You're pretty good. You're like Larry King or Barbara Walters or something like that.
I wouldn't go that far.
For Larry King or Barbara Walters, for that matter. So listen, for people that are out there, if you haven't subscribed to the Simply Financial podcast already, please do so. Lindy and I would love that. Additionally, go to our website, www.elliottwealth.com, and at the site, you can find out more information about Lindy, myself, the rest of the team, and if you're not a client, you could sign up for complimentary consultation. We could either do it in person or remotely. And if you're not a client of ours already, we would love to speak with you. So thank you very much for listening. I will be back with you on the next episode of the Simply Financial podcast very soon. Thank you.
The views expressed are not necessarily the opinion of SagePoint Financial Incorporated and should not be construed directly or indirectly as an offer to buy or sell any securities mentioned herein. Investing is subject to risks, including loss of principal invested. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. No strategy can assure a profit nor protect against loss. Please note that individual situations can vary. Therefore, the information should be relied upon when coordinated with individual professional advice. Please note, the information being provided is strictly as a courtesy. When you link to any of the websites provided here, you are leaving this website. We make no representation as to the completeness or accuracy of the information provided at these websites, nor is the company liable for any direct or indirect technical or system issues or any consequences arising out of your access to your use of third-party technologies, websites, information, and programs made available through this website. When you access one of these websites, you are leaving our website and assume total responsibility and risk for your use of the websites you are linking to. Securities and advisory services are offered through SagePoint Financial Incorporated, member FINRA SIPC. Insurance services offered through Elliott Wealth Management, LLC, not affiliated with SagePoint Financial.
Simply Financial is part of the Exvadio Podcast Network. You can find Exvadio podcasts at exvadio.com/podcast, the Apple Podcasts app, iTunes Store, iHeartRadio app, Spotify, Stitcher, and wherever you find podcasts. So join us and stay informed and entertained.